Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Going for Two podcast. We were gone for a little over a week. I took an unexpected trip away, so couldn't unfortunately record after the college football playoff bracket was officially announced. We're going to talk about that today. And we're also going to talk about college football awards.
How much of a piece of shit it is.
It's we do not agree with a lot of these awards. It's seems pretty rigged. Also, we have a new background for those on YouTube. If you guys like it, let me know in the comments. If not, also you can let me know. But yeah, we have a new background, so we have looked a little bit more official now. But Taylor, how you been? It's been a while since we talked.
Yeah, I'm good. And like I said, it's just gears are grinded with this whole award ceremony. Like it's just I don't understand it. Like I said, if you're not a Power Four conference, like you're just getting fucking shafted. Like
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like if JT didn't win this, I don't know who is going to going forward. Like it's crazy.
yeah.
Like we'll get into it as we get into this podcast, but I've been good, man. Like, things are well, but it's just like
At least a sour taste.
there were a lot of guys that got shafted because of where they play.
Yeah, I would agree. It almost seems the exact opposite of the college football playoff committee. You know, it doesn't really matter who you play, but when you're doing with awards, it does. So what
Right,
kind of
100%.
seems
Crazy.
Which I mean, Travis Hunter didn't play that much better talent than Ashton Jeanty did.
No, absolutely.
He played
not.
in the Power Four conference.
He played in a different conference. Like I'm sorry, like if you look at those conferences right now, like I mean, the Big 12 is one of the worst Power Four conferences. Like it's just,
Yeah, I mean,
it
I
is
would
what
say
it
it's
is.
probably one of the. I mean, ACC all the way down is pretty bad. So
Yeah, but like
I
I
think
mean,
the
it's
ACC is
not like
probably the worst.
ACC and Big 12 are like it's do a coin flip.
You could argue either one. I agree. You could argue either one's the better or worse or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, let's start with the college football playoff bracket. What are your first thoughts on the bracket? Do you think the right teams are in?
I'm fine with the teams are in. I think the biggest thing we're going to talk about today is, and we've had this conversation off camera, is that whole Alabama and how everybody wants to call it a snub. I think that as we go into this new bracket, this new form of how we're going to do the college football playoffs, is win the games you're supposed to win.
Yeah, I mean
Don't lose your fucking Vanderbilts.
that
Don't lose to
is the
your
argument.
OUs. And I think that's where it is. I think this is going to change a lot of. And you've seen a lot with some of the ADs coming out on how they're gonna change some of their non-conference games, which I like. I think it's a big deal.
You like the fact that they're not going to play competitive games.
I think that's the difference here. Is I think this goes one of two ways. You're either going to see people have more competitive games so that you have a reason that when it comes down to it and it shows like what was my strength of schedule, because I think that's a big thing that plays into it, that's going to play into it. And then you're going to see ADs look at it the opposite way, where you're going to have it where they're going to look at it and go, well, I'm going to play a bunch of fucking nobodies.
Right. Well, that's kind of the argument. If you look at SMU's schedule compared to Alabama's schedule, yes, you lost 3 games. Yeah, you should have beaten some of these teams. Like, win your games. Obviously, that's the case. But SMU's strength of schedule was 60th. Right. Alabama's, I think it was 15th. They also play in the best conference in college football.
Right.
Like, and it's not even close. Like, the Big Ten, you'd say, is right there. But, like, this year, it was not even close. The Big Ten was weak.
But it's still one of those that, like, if I look at those losses, I still put SMU in.
If SMU doesn't come back in that fourth quarter, do you put Alabama in? If they lose by 17, 14 points, whatever it was, I think they were down 15 to start the fourth quarter.
Right.
But well, if they lose by more than a touchdown, do you think
this still goes into the same thing that the committee's talked about the entire time, is that championship game shouldn't be a hindrance.
Yes,
just because you made your championship game shouldn't be the reason that like something's looked at and been like, well, we're not going to put you in because you lost your championship game. You did well. And I think the best example of this is Tennessee, where Tennessee makes it. Tennessee didn't play in the SEC championship. They didn't have that extra game. And it's one of those that like they kind of already knew they were kind of locked in.
Because they did,
It's one of those that, like, I think going into the championship game, I don't think anybody had any doubts that SMU was a college football playoff team.
I mean,
Don't get me wrong, you're gonna have your
the way
fucking
this
haters out
Clemson
there,
game
but
started, no, I didn't think they were a college football playoff team. Sorry,
no,
you two
but like,
eating dinner as well.
um,
I'm hungry. I've been doing stuff all day.
so the thought on that is that I think I like going into that game. I think I had Clemson winning that. I think that's SMU's first year in the conference. I think that you're going to get put in a big spot like that against a team. What Clemson's won it? What, like 4 or 5, like 4 out of 5
I think
times?
like 4 of the last 5 years or 5 of
Yeah,
the last
exactly.
6.
So
Like that.
they're used to
They
being
dominated
in
the
those,
ACC in recent years.
like they're used to being in those positions of like being in that high pressure situation. So like I had Clemson winning that game. I wanted SMU to win it just because like it's Texas team. So for me, it's one of those you always like to root for the fucking
The home team.
the hometown team. But I think they played, and I think that's one of those ones where you get into a situation like that where you've never played in a big game like that or hadn't played in a conference championship like that, where it's a lot to deal with in that first half. And I think what's it, Davo? Is that who's the coach over there?
That was Sweeney.
Yeah. Sweeney made it perfect where he thought he said it perfectly. He's like, man, they're a hell of a team. And to fight back in that fourth quarter like they did, to come into where like Clemson had to kick a last minute field goal, if I remember right, to win that game. It was one of those that it showed that I think they deserve to be there. And I think that we're going to run into this. I think you're going to see changes in how we do the college football playoffs going into the offseason this year. But at the end of the day, I like SMU there. I think that's where it's at. But it is.
I have another question. So, do you think the 12 best teams in college football are playing against each other in this bracket?
No, I don't. But that goes straight.
How do you fix it, or do you think it should be? Let me ask you that. Do you think it should be the 12 best teams in college football?
We had this conversation last night with multiple people. It's one of those ones where you look at it. You look at Boise State, you look at SMU, you look at Arizona State, and you go, do I think Alabama has a chance to beat all of those guys? Absolutely. But we're going based off of what they put as the guidelines on this. I think the 12 teams that are supposed to be there are there.
Yes, I would agree. As guidelines they've stated are here, but I mean, I would much rather see, and I understand, I'm okay with having a group of 5 team getting an automatic kind of berth because you always want to see that. Like, there's always a good group of 5 team out there, whether they're playing nobodies or whatever.
I think that Boise State's a great group of 5 team. They played fucking Oregon phenomenally earlier this year, and I think that's as we get into the awards is where you're going to hear me have a rant. Is that JT ran for almost 200 plus yards against a phenomenal fucking Oregon defense.
I think they were top rated defense.
Like, exactly. I'd go on a gander. I don't have it pulled up, but I'd say they're probably a top 15 defense.
I would say they're top. I would always put money that they're top 5 off the top of my head.
Right, but like it's one of those that like I think that Boise State's done what they needed to do to be in the position they're in. The same way that like you'll look at. If I had to say somebody that shouldn't have been in the college football playoffs, it's Indiana. I would have left Indiana out. I don't care where you rank in the top. You played nobody. And when you played somebody, you got the shit stomped out of you. I don't like it. It's one of those that I'm willing to take a wild stab that if you had taken the top, like put 3 or 4 of those top like 5 teams in the fucking Big Ten on their schedule, I don't think they run the same record they have right
now. Yeah.
But sometimes you're given what you're given. You get lucky on a schedule.
Right, but I would much rather see, and I know that's like their early games, you don't want to, stack up early season like tough games because you're going to go into your conference, especially with like the big guys like SEC and Big Ten. You're going to go to those conferences, and it's going to be an absolute dogfight, as it should be, though. Right. But I don't want to see Indiana playing Indiana State, and then like Ohio, like no, disrespect to Ohio, they had a great season. They just won the MAC, and apparently they have a really good defense as well. But like a team like Kent State, I don't see them to go Indiana State, Kent State, Mercer, and another FCS team, and then go into conference play and play the entire bottom half of their conference. Exactly. That's not going to do anything crazy, which is kind of what Indiana played this year. But like, I would much rather see teams like, oh, Indiana played Notre Dame and they got blown out of the water, or they played Notre Dame at the beginning of the season and then they kept it close. Like we talk about that Boise State Oregon game, like that was an impressive loss.
No,
because they went on the road and lost by 3. Like I would much rather hear and talk about that than, oh yeah, well they went in 11-1, so like they should obviously be good. Okay, but like who'd they play?
Right,
like,
exactly. And
11-1 should have like.
I've got Indiana's schedule pulled up right now. You look at that: FIU, Western Illinois, UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, which they got absolutely shit stomped on, and then they play Purdue to finish the fucking season. And yet you're getting in because you're fucking 11-1.
How many of those teams had a 500 record or better?
If you look at just because it's going to show Big Ten standings here, Purdue went 0-9 in conference. Maryland went 1-8 in conference. Northwestern went 2-7. Who else is on there? Nebraska. Where did they finish?
They also obliterated Nebraska. I gotta give
Nebraska finished 3-6.
That was really disappointing.
Washington's 4-5. Michigan State finished 3-6. Michigan's first one off the list that's over 500 in conference play. Other than that, nobody finished in conference play over 500. Which I think that's where like it grinds my gears a little bit, because you have that situation, but if you're going by the guidelines of what the CFP wanted to go with, and you can't bitch about it because technically they check the boxes. I mean,
we're doing it right now.
Fucking do anything.
I'm doing it right now.
But it's one of those that like I'd like to see what Indiana's schedule looks like next year. I'd like to see those Oregon, Penn State, Illinois, Iowa, some of those like those top 10 teams on the fucking in the Big Ten, and I want to see how you play against multiple of those. I also want to see a better non-conference from you. I'm sorry.
I would rather see those tough games, and even if you lose by a touchdown or so, like if that team, if Notre Dame. Yeah, they lost to Northern Illinois, but like if they had played them early in the season and lost by a touchdown, I'd be like, okay, it's not a bad loss.
No,
it's very similar to like college basketball. Like you play, like you have the like ACC and Big 12, they play each other, and I think the SEC and Big 10 they play each other, and like the top teams usually meet. Like you see Kentucky and Duke playing a lot in college basketball. I would like to see more of that.
I think a great thing to look at that was like, let's take out the Michigan loss for Ohio State. I think Ohio State, like you're a one-loss team, and your one loss is to fucking Oregon on 32-31 on what I thought was a bullshit fucking situation to end that game.
Bullshit situation, but again,
it is what it is.
It is the rule.
You're not going to get into the semantics of it. Yeah. But it's one of those, you have a 32-31 loss. Like it's a great, and that's the thing. They don't lose to Michigan. You get to see a repeat of that game. I'm entertained to wonder how that plays out. I also don't think, and we had this conversation, I think Ryan Day should have got fucking fired.
Oh, he should have been fired the day after they lost to Michigan State or Michigan, pardon me. But the AD has already come out and said he is awesome. He is staying for another season at least.
Absolutely. So, not. Which like and I think I had a conversation with a good work friend of mine. We were talking about college football, where it's one of those that like there's certain games, there's certain rivalries that you have that I don't like. Ohio State could go on to win the fucking national championship this year, and there's still going to be a bitter taste in fans' mouths because you lost to Michigan.
Yeah, if you don't beat Michigan, and vice versa, if you don't beat Ohio State, you did not have a good season.
No,
but Michigan is going to take that as a win. Like, yeah, we had a pretty bad season overall, but we still beat
Ohio State. And we beat them
at home.
Exactly.
3 touchdown underdogs.
Exactly. And
which is
I think, and being a Texas fan, it's one of those that when I look at the schedule every year, there are 2 games on that schedule that I expect you to win, regardless of whatever else you do. It's OU and A&M.
A&M now.
You
Yeah.
better beat the shit out of them, and you better win. As long as you win both, I'm fine with it.
Hmm.
Just because there's certain games that you look on those schedules that like they're must wins.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of, I mean, Alabama, you got to beat Auburn.
You
I
have
don't
to.
care. I
You
don't care
have
if you have
to.
a losing record. You can lose every other game, but you have to beat Auburn.
You have
It
to.
is what it is. Yeah, and I like those. I really like that about that's something that also is really cool about college football. You don't have that in the NFL.
No.
Like the rivalries aren't as heated. Like
I mean,
the
there's
Chiefs
certain
and
ones.
Raiders hate each other. I'm like,
There's certain ones that you look at in the NFL, and I think the best one to look at per division on each side. You've got the NFC North, which that like
yeah,
Bears, Packers, Lions, and
absolutely stacked.
Vikings. And then you've got the same another one that I think every year after year that you look at is what is it AFC North that's got the Bengals?
No, that yeah. AFC North.
Yeah, AFC North is another one of those that I think those rivalry games are like year
Those
after
are yeah,
year. There's those right
those are
there
battles.
are they're battles, and I think they can go. I don't care how bad the Browns are year after year. When they play those 3 teams in the division, they're always very contested team. They're always contested matches.
Right.
So like you just don't see it as much in the NFL as you do in NCAA.
Yeah.
But it's one of those when you look at college ball, it's those are must-win games. Like that's the shit that gets fucking head coaches fired.
Absolutely. And I mean, I started at the beginning of the season, and I'll say it now. I don't like Ryan Day. I think he's a good coach. I just don't think he doesn't get it
He
done
he doesn't
when
check
he
a
needs
box.
to. He just
He
doesn't get it
doesn't.
done when he needs to.
I think I sent you something on Instagram where it was one of those where it was like if it had he gotten fired, like Oregon should have hired him just as an advisor. What would you do in this situation? And then done the exact opposite.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree with that.
Like I saw it and I laughed because I was like, I mean, you're not wrong.
All right. Teams are set. Let's leave it at that. Let's go through it, and we're gonna collectively pick the winner of the playoffs.
Okay.
We're gonna pick the national champion. We'll start with your Longhorns taking on Clemson at home.
I think UT wins that. I think as we talk about those Longhorns, I think there's going to be a interesting look to them next year because there's a lot of speculation that Ewers wants to come back, and I think Texas is ready to put a
I think
man
Texas is ready to
under
move on.
helm. So it's one of
I
those
agree.
that I like Texas in that situation. I think Texas got really lucky with where they fell at in that because you're going to get Clemson into ASU. Not to sleep on Arizona State. I like Arizona State. Me and you've had that conversation. I think Arizona State is a dark horse in this just because like they play well. I don't
Yeah.
think there's any game that I can look at and just count them out. I think they're always gonna just be in that. I think that, and I think that's comes from a coaching standpoint. We had that conversation with the coach and like where he came from and how he got to where he was.
Yeah.
And I think that does a lot when it comes to how players play for him.
Yeah. I agree. No, I'm a big fan of Kenny Dillingham, and I'm rooting for him pretty much.
Yeah,
His whole
no,
career.
and I think we had a conversation about it where the thought was we'd love to see him in like in one of those like big spots, like if they had gotten fired, seeing him at Ohio State. I don't see him moving Arizona State's where he wants to be. It was a big thing for him. It's all modern. He's where he wants to be,
Right,
I
but
think and for
it's one of those
Arizona
big
State
team
you love
calls.
it. And for Arizona State, I think you'll love it because you don't have to worry about him leaving to go somewhere else.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, when Ohio State calls you, it's like, hey, you want to be the head coach at Ohio State? Like that's
But I mean,
easily one of the top 5 biggest programs in college football. Arguably top. I mean, top
I
5
don't
biggest.
disagree, but my greatest point to say this is look at the Marshall position right now
Yeah,
of how much and influential a coach matters to a program.
yeah. I
And I
mean,
and I th- and I think that speaks to that coach that you can, like I said, you're gonna do like I'd be interested to see how Arizona State does recruiting wise in the next like year or two. I think you're gonna see a lot of guys that you had an Arizona State team that wasn't expect like I don't I'd love to see what their over under was on wins at the beginning of the season.
Arizona State,
Yeah.
they were picked
I,
at the bottom of the Big 12, literally
right.
dead last.
Right. So I'm gonna take a wild stab and say they were
Not
probably
good,
under 5 wins.
probably.
And you go on and do what you did. I think their 2 losses were to Texas Tech and Baylor.
Cincinnati.
It was Cincinnati. In that Tech game, if I remember right, they were without their quarterback, and I want to say that
Same with the Cincinnati game.
exactly. You didn't. So there's a chance that team could have gone undefeated
It's possible.
had they not like lost somebody that was important on. And I think that's one of those that that speaks to the coaching on that.
Right. Right. All
So I
right.
think
Next,
you'll see that.
I think it'll be a fight regardless. Tennessee at Ohio State.
I like
Great
Tennessee.
Great
I like
matchup.
Tennessee.
Really?
I do not like Day. I think Day, and we've had this like we've talked about it here. I don't like Day. I don't like his coaching. I think he's going to drop the ball when it comes to it, and that's one of those where I just think that at the end of the day, you're going to see a really strong SEC team absolutely spank the shit out of them.
I disagree.
I guess we'll find out, but
I disagree. I mean,
you
I don't
lost
hate
to
the
Michigan.
I don't hate the. Yeah, I understand that. I'm not a huge fan of Tennessee's offense, which is a problem because Ohio State has a very good defense.
I'm not a huge fan of fucking Ohio State's offense and the play calling
Me
that
neither.
comes from the coaching.
Me neither. But I think it's close.
I think it's close, and I think it's a 1-score game, one way left or right.
Right.
I just at the end of the day, like Tennessee's been put in those positions where like you're playing teams week in and week out that could win. Sorry, Ohio State hadn't been in that this year.
They're 7-point favorites, by the way. Ohio State.
I mean, I don't know if I'd take it.
I can see Tennessee covering that, but I still think Ohio State wins.
I could also see Ohio State losing just like they lost to Michigan on a field goal.
Yeah. Okay. So you have Tennessee, I have Ohio State. We'll leave it at that. SMU, Penn State. I think this one's a little easier for us.
I don't know if it is.
Really?
I think that's going to be a close game. I think SMU could win that game.
On the road?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I think Penn State covers.
I think Penn State is I think your go-to thought is Penn State, but I think
after the Big Ten championship game, I don't know if you watched that game. That was nuts.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, like they did better. They did better than I thought they would in that championship game.
No shame.
I've said this to you all season. I don't like them. They didn't play anybody. So and they stepped up and they played well against Oregon and did what they needed to put themselves in a position to potentially be in the discussion of winning that game. What Penn State shows up.
Yeah,
because they've had games where they look really good against somebody like Oregon, and they've had games where you're wondering what are we doing?
Yeah. Okay, so how about this?
Let's see.
You can pick SMU or Tennessee to win their matchup. Which one are you taking?
I like Tennessee more than I like SMU.
Okay, so we'll put Tennessee because we're going to talk about the Oregon game next in a little bit. And then Penn State wins their game. Last first round matchup, Indiana Notre Dame.
I like Notre Dame.
Notre
I don't
Dame is
think
7.5 point favorites.
I don't think it's a discussion. I don't trust Indiana.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
Exactly. And the one time I saw it where they actually played somebody that was good, they got spanked.
Yeah. That's kind of the problem. Well, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, that's kind of the problem.
I like the coaching. I think that over the next couple of years, I think you're going to see a lot of phenomenal players go into that program, and I think they turn into a like top 5 program just because that coach is phenomenal. I don't see it now. I think you got to where you got because of what your schedule looked like.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's go to the Sugar Bowl game. So it would be Georgia and Notre Dame, according to us. Georgia, Notre Dame.
I like Georgia.
Georgia's been hot.
Georgia's
but
been hot.
If you can stop the run, you can stop Georgia, because if you're going to let Carson Beck beat you, he's going to throw at least 2 picks.
That's the thing. I don't know if we're going to see Carson Beck.
Really? You think you'll see Gunnar Stockton?
Has anything come out and said what happened to Beck's hand?
I
haven't seen anything.
I haven't seen anything. I don't think it was anything major.
Because last time I was looking at when I was scrolling through Instagram, I think they still have Gunnar as the starting QB.
Well, if they have Gunnar Stockton, then I'm taking Notre Dame, and they'll cover whatever they're favored by.
I don't know. I like Gunnar.
That Notre Dame defense is good though, and their offense has been phenomenal.
I don't know. I think it's
if they have Carson Beck, and I'm not saying Carson Beck is the deciding factor, though that's kind of how it's sounding. I mean, Georgia's just
I don't think either of them. I think it's a plug and play in that situation. Beck has looked like shit this season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those that I don't think you look at that one way, left and or right, on the fact that like who's playing in that. I like Gunnar for the sheer fact that he, like, you look at that second half of the SEC championship, like that Georgia offense looked a lot better than it did in the first half.
Yeah, but you said about the entire season for Georgia. They scored 0 points against Georgia Tech in the first half, and they won what, 44-42?
Yeah.
What?
It's crazy.
Yeah. All right. So we're taking Georgia over Notre Dame.
Let's say Beck plays. If Beck plays, just because that's been your start of the season, I like Georgia. Just they're a good second half team. I don't
know. Notre Dame. Notre Dame's just been so good recently.
Let's see.
Let's go to the next one, and we can there's a one that we can flip on as well, like we just did for the first round games. So, Boise State versus Penn State.
Before we move off of that, who has Notre Dame played?
They have not played a lot of.
So they won by 10 against A&M.
That's a good win.
They lost to Northern Illinois. They beat Purdue.
Everyone
Miami
did.
Of Ohio.
They made the MAC conference championship game.
At Louisville at the time was 15th.
It's a ranked win. It's a good win.
Only won by 7.
Still a good win.
Stanford, they blew out.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, 31-13.
Okay, Georgia Tech played Georgia close. It's not a bad win.
Which, Navy,
they blew Navy out of the water. They blew Army out of the water. Exactly. Both of those were ranked at the time.
You also played Florida State.
Yeah, they were
Virginia.
They were
pretty. And then you finished the season with USC, which I think that USC team isn't as good as anybody thinks they were gonna be.
Right.
And you only beat them by 2 touchdowns, which I think the thought on that was that it should have been like a 49-20 game.
Yeah.
I don't look at that schedule and see anybody on that schedule that I'm just like, oh man, you did great there.
Right, but again, Notre Dame's not in the conference. They have a bunch of set rivalries,
which I think is bullshit. Fucking grow up. Fucking get in a conference.
I mean, if they want
never,
these buys, they're going to have to.
exactly.
I mean, it is what it is. All right, Boise State, Penn State. You ready?
Oh,
This is at the Fiesta Bowl, so this will be in Arizona. That Georgia game's in Georgia. It's in Atlanta.
yeah, exactly. Which is another reason why Georgia plays well in that stadium.
Yeah, they do.
Boise
State, Penn State, though, that could be a little closer than people think. I think Penn State will be favored for sure.
I think they're favored. I like Boise State just because of JT. We had a conversation about this last night where you can stack the box with 9 and the dude is still going to get yards.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very similar conversation to Notre Dame, though. They haven't really played anybody other than that Oregon game.
Right, but
would you say that Oregon loss is any better than any of Notre Dame's wins?
Yes, all day. Seeing Boise State lose to that Oregon team and JT still running, if I remember right, I think it was 190 yards.
Something like that.
2 tutties.
Yeah.
Against what? Well, you looked it up earlier. What's Oregon's defense ranked?
Actually, their defensive ranks are not as good as I thought. I thought I saw.
Let's see. While you're looking,
Oregon was one of the top defenses in general, but they weren't even on. They're not top 10 on total defense.
So, number 1 team in the nation. The only they're the only undefeated team left.
Yeah.
JT had 25 carries for 192 and 3 tutties.
Yeah, Oregon is 10th in total defense.
Still a top 10 team.
Yeah.
And he averaged 7.7 yards a carry.
Yeah.
We're talking what? Boise State, Penn State? Where's Penn State rank?
6th.
I still
you know who's 5th?
Who?
You've already said them once today, and you're not going to believe it.
Indiana?
No, they're 2nd.
Yeah, because they played nobody.
Right?
Who is it?
Northern Illinois.
Really?
They're 5th. Yeah, total defense.
Crazy.
Yeah, there's another group of 5. Ohio is 8th.
That's
which is kind of surprising.
But like I said, and I think that's going to be your biggest contributing factor in that game is how does JT do?
I mean, it pretty much revolves around JT, and then they mix in the pass.
Right.
At least that's what everyone
has seen. You're going to come off of because I think he's going to have a sour taste in his mouth after last night. I think he's gonna come out. I would be interested to see how, but I say he goes over 200 yards and over 2 tuts.
Over 200. Risky. I would give you the over 150 for sure. But
so let's split the difference on that
175
and what do you want to wager?
Oh shit, I don't know. We can go up with something.
You just want to call it a $10 wager on that?
Sure, we could do $10 if they're playing Penn State.
Right,
they have to be playing Penn State.
I mean, we'll have something in between this, but like I said, I mean, let's say if it's Penn State, I think that he could go for 203 tuts.
Okay, so you're going to take Boise State in that game.
I like Boise State. I think it's a close one. I think it comes down to.
Okay, well then we're picking Notre Dame to beat Georgia in this scenario. If you're going to give them Boise State,
still like Georgia, but sure.
Okay, all right. Let's move on. Oregon, Tennessee.
Oregon. I don't think it's even a discussion. I think there's a coaching differential there.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I mean, I think we were talking about it. Was it? I mean, just a second ago, we were talking about the awards, and we were the coach. We were looking at the coach of the year, and it hasn't been announced. And you said it should be Gillingham, which I'd be totally for, but I said Lanning. But
I don't think you'd be mad at either.
No,
I don't think either of those is a snub in this situation. I like Arizona State just because of where they were projected and what they did.
Yeah.
I think everybody knew Oregon this year was going to be good.
Yeah.
Like I don't think anybody had any kind of doubts that they were going to be a top 12 team. They're going to be a college football playoff team. Arizona State, on the other hand, I don't think anybody expected to do what they did.
No, everyone expected them to be, like I said earlier, bottom of the Big 12.
Right.
And they ended up winning the Big 12.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, they had some help with teams losing to certain teams.
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about how the Jayhawks decided to like go on a really
They decided to learn how to play football.
Right.
The back half of the year.
So
K-State still beat them though, so that's what matters most.
They had some help in the situation, yes, but like they still won the games they needed to win, and they did well.
Yeah,
like you can't.
Do you have them? Do you have them maybe upsetting Texas here?
I think a lot of it depends on how Ewers plays.
I think a lot of it has to do with how Texas's rush defense does.
I don't mind that either. I think this is going to be an interesting one. Like you're gonna
because if you kind of like very similar to the Georgia argument,
Scatterbo's
Scatterbo's great. Scatterbo's insane.
If I'm any NFL team right now, I don't think I have a problem taking that kid in the first round.
Sorry.
I think that he should have been up there with JT in that situation. Like he played phenomenal football.
He finished 5th in Heisman voting, right?
Right.
Yeah. Which is crazy because he's a transfer from Sacramento State last year.
Right. So like it's one of those that like he popped onto the scene. I could see him going late first round, early second round now.
I don't know. You're seeing running backs go later and later. I could see like third. I don't see a first round pick. JT's going to go in the back of the first, if not early second.
But I've seen projections for him going anywhere from like 12 to 20.
Yeah, you always see that. They always highlight the projections are always, oh yeah, they need a running back. They're going to go get JT. It's like, and they may. I'm not saying it's not, impossible, but in recent years, people aren't spending on running backs unless your name's Bijan Robinson.
As we talk about the NFL draft, have you seen the fact that Shedeur has made comments that he will tell teams that he will not play for them?
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all. And I think I have seen that. That doesn't surprise me at all.
You want to know what his two teams are?
It's the Raiders and the Giants, aren't they?
Nope, it is the Raiders and the fucking Cowboys.
Yeah. Well, if it's the Cowboys, you know who your next coach is going to be.
Well, and that's the thing. Cowboys have come out and said that they're entertaining the fact of keeping McCarthy, which I think is the worst decision.
Worst decision you could make.
And this is, you'll see it a ton with, I think I like primetime in college.
Yeah,
I don't know if I like him in the NFL. Do I think he's a great coach? Absolutely. But do I think that him as a college coach is better? Yes. I like what he does for these young men.
I want to see what he does without Shedeur.
I'm entertained to see it, and we'll find out next year. But I think guys want to play for him, man. Like
they do. I mean, they had a 4-star number 9 quarterback in this recruiting class flip. I think from.
If I remember right, I think they also had somebody in the transfer portal.
Oh, I'm sure. Did they recently get someone? I've been trying to keep up with the transfer portal as much as possible. There's been some crazy ones out there already.
That's like Arnold going to Auburn.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold going to Auburn. I actually really like that fit.
I do too, definitely with Auburn losing 3 quarterbacks in the transfer portal.
Yeah, one of them going. No, that's Walker Howard going to Louisiana. That's the Ole Miss quarterback. Yeah, Hank. I think his name's Hank Brown. He went to Iowa. I know Walker White's also in the portal. And they had one other one I can't think of off the top of my head, but I mean Jackson Arnold. It's going to be his team, huh?
Nobody. I'm pulling it up now. No, it doesn't look like anybody's swapped quarterback-wise from another team to Colorado.
Oh, okay. I know they have Julian Lewis is his name. He was the number 9 quarterback in this year's recruiting rankings, and I know he flipped it was either from Georgia or from USC. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they got a pretty decent quarterback who I think will probably start for them.
Well, and that's the thing.
If they don't bring in someone in the
you
portal.
still have some quarterbacks that are open that are still willing to like make those moves, and I think a lot of that's gonna play with NIL money, and we'll see how it entertains. But
yeah. The one guy, and he's not a quarterback. The one guy I'm really interested to see is Eric Singleton Jr. He's Georgia Tech. He's transferring to the predictions is saying it's Ole Miss almost 100%. Last time I saw that they had it 100% was Jackson Arnold to Auburn, and he committed the next morning. So pretty much established that kid. You should after
what
this.
Position?
He's a wide receiver. After we get off the podcast, you should watch this kid. This kid's highlights. He's nuts.
No, it's already confirmed.
It is confirmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it earlier today, and I was like, "Oh, there it was." And then obviously there's Micah Hudson as well, the former 5-star out of Tech. Tech's first 5-star transferred after his first year. Crazy.
And I think a lot of that everybody's talking about him going to UT.
I think it was UT and A&M were the big two that were.
Yeah, but
there.
A&M losing. Like, didn't they just lose their top quarterback?
They lost Wegman to Houston, but they have Marcel Reed who took over.
Yeah,
Marcel Reed's. I mean,
You're really gonna pass up being able to play with Arch.
I don't know. I mean, if it were, I mean, it's not me. I mean, I'm not a huge proprietor of Marcel Reed's passing game. I think it's not exactly top tier compared to what I've seen from a guy like Ewers or Arch Manning, whoever it is. I think it would be crazy for Ewers to miss the draft. I'm just going to put that out there. I think that would be the wrong move.
I think after seeing this season and how he's played, I don't see how he declares. I was
going to say he may have fallen because he has not had a great back half of the season.
I don't think he's had a great first half of the season.
I mean, it's either he goes to the draft or he transfers to a Big Ten school. And I think we talked about it last night. We pretty much know what that Big Ten school is.
Yeah, but I also think that there's a other school that could entertain if they're willing to pay the money.
I mean, what?
UNC.
Why? Why UNC?
Why not? You're gonna sit there and like play for an NFL coach.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, I could see. You know,
I also think that I think it's also one of those ones that I think if Ewers decides to do that, there's going to be a change in his game. And the fact that I think looking at that Georgia game, there were a lot of lofted passes. There was a lot of stuff that you looked at and you kind of wondered why.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Ewers' problems are decision making.
Yeah, which could be fixed with a little bit more experience, but he has quite a bit already. It's almost concerning.
No, absolutely, and if he declares like and we had this conversation, I'd like to see him go to like somewhere like Pittsburgh, where you get to sit a year or two behind somebody like Wilson, who Wilson, he's a smart quarterback.
LA,
he makes good. I'd like LA. I called that earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see him behind Stafford for a year.
Yeah, I don't think he's we're going to draft Ewers and he's the man.
And he's the starter. No, I think he's somebody you look at like Mahomes a few years ago, where you'd like him to sit behind a veteran quarterback for a year. I think Ewers needs 2.
It could be 2, but at least, but if something does happen, Ewers is capable of playing.
Right. No,
and still winning games. Like he wouldn't lose games.
I think he could play in the NFL. I don't have a doubt in that.
Mm-hmm.
I want him to sit behind somebody veteran to help with those decision making and work on some of that like mechanic stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, so we're gonna say Texas beats Arizona State. We're gonna have.
I like Texas beating them. I think your determining factor on that is how does Ewers play.
I agree. Okay, so then Oregon, Texas. We'll go quick. We gotta get to the awards.
I like Oregon in that. I think Oregon wins the whole thing. Oregon's just
all right. Spoilers
is what it is.
Oregon beats Texas.
I think it's Oregon. I think it's Oregon's to lose.
I mean, they're the only undefeated team, so it makes sense. So then we have Notre Dame and Boise State in the other semifinal game at the Orange Bowl.
Man, I'm going with the underdog on that one.
You're going to stick with Boise State?
I like Boise State, man.
Dude.
Like, I think I like Jainty. I think that.
Yeah, I really do. I think you just like JT in this. So you just want him to win it because they didn't give him the Heisman last night.
I also think that until I can see somebody that can stop him, I'm going to ride the kid.
Good point. Be careful with that sentence. Be careful with that sentence.
That's rough. That's good call. But I don't know if anybody can stop him.
We haven't seen it. I think you'll see it against Penn State. I don't think I gave you 150, and I know that's not stopping him, but that's stopping him if you're Ashton Jeanty.
Right.
So there's no way I can let you pick Boise State over Notre Dame. I can't let you do that.
I'll take it.
Because I'm not gonna. I don't want to watch another Georgia TCU championship game in Oregon and Boise State. I'm sorry. I know they played.
But we already watched that once.
I know we already saw it, and it was incredible.
Then why wouldn't you want to see it again? It was a good game. It was a 34-37. It was a 34-37 loss.
And that would be at a neutral site, I think.
Yeah, it will.
Where's that at? It's in Atlanta, isn't it?
I think it is. I think it's in Atlanta. So it's not like either of them would have any kind of home field. Like everybody would have to travel.
It'd be all West Coast.
Exactly.
It'd be wild. I just can't see Notre Dame losing to Boise State, man. And you could have said the same thing when they lost into Northern Illinois. I know what you're going to say.
It's just until I see somebody stop him, man.
I think Notre Dame Oregon would be a better national championship game all around. But it would also be cool to see Boise State Oregon play again this year and at a neutral site.
It's also one of those that we've already seen it once. It was a great game. Like if we saw another 34-37 national championship, would anybody bitch about it?
Absolutely not.
No.
I don't think that would be the case, though. I think Oregon's a much better team than week 2. They're just being Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't like Penn State as a whole, and that game ended up being a whole lot closer than I thought it should have been.
I agree. Anyways, Oregon's winning is what we're going to go with. We're picking Oregon to win.
I would say Oregon wins that regardless who they play. I think it's Oregon's to lose. I think if it comes down to it, it's just going to be a lapse and somebody dropping the ball.
Literally, it could be. Could be literally that. Okay, let's move on to college football awards. Obviously, we'll just start with the Heisman Trophy. We both think that
a snub.
Apparently, this was the closest race since 2009 between Mark Ingram and blast from the past Toby Gerhart. I don't know if you remember that name.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get it.
Where do you go to school?
I don't know off the top of my head. Where?
It's a West Coast school. Pac-12, no longer in the Pac-12. That doesn't help.
CLA?
No, I went to Stanford.
Okay.
But yeah, absolute gypped. Travis Hunter won the Heisman last night. Ashton Jeanty. So the votes, I think it was like 512 to 300 something.
I think it was 512 to 383.
Yeah, closest since 2009. But I just don't. Looking at the numbers, which is like given the season, and also just quick.
So I saw
Colorado
something.
Had 3 losses. Why?
So I saw something with this is that if you put Travis Hunter on Boise State and JT on Colorado, would Boise State still be a college football playoff team?
Well, yeah.
Would they?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's actually. I mean, now that
I don't think they would be.
They don't play the same position, so
that's where where I'm at with this is like, how much did Travis Hunter do to like put?
I mean, this is, as we go down this list, this is clearly just a popularity contest.
100%. That this goes into, and we had this conversation last night. The wide receiver award was bullshit. You snubbed a Triple Crown guy.
Only 4 times that's happened. That's happened 4 times in history, And this is
and
the first
he
time the
didn't get
Bulletin
that
Cup wasn't
award,
given to the Triple
fuck
Crown winner.
you. And then you did the same thing to the tight end award.
That
was
okay,
a triple crown as well.
I agree Fannin should have won the Mackey,
what?
but Tyler Warren is a very good tight end. He's clearly the number 2.
Like, when you have somebody that wins the Triple Crown, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
It's absurd to see
Travis Hunter
shit
won
like that.
The Heisman, AP Player of the Year, the Biletnikoff, the Bednarik for Best Defensive Player, which also doesn't make any sense. He also won
another one he did too.
He won the Lot Impact Trophy for the Defensive Impact Player of the Year, which I think is made up just for him. I've never heard of that.
He also won Most Versatile.
Most Versatile, the Paul Hornung.
That's back-to-back years he won that.
He also won the Walter Camp for College Player of the Year, so that's 7 total awards that Travis Hunter won this year. I don't understand why we have College Player of the Year and AP Player of the Year. That's the same award. I don't care about the writer's opinion. It does not matter to me.
Right, exactly.
It does not matter.
The only reason this kid's winning anything is because he plays both sides of the ball.
He's a very talented football player.
Right. And we had this conversation. We had this conversation last night with Brennan, who was on last podcast. If you're talking about this going into somebody drafting him and you're going to, like, because fantasy is such a big thing now. Do you spend a first round on him?
I think you do.
I wouldn't. I don't know where he's playing. Is he going to play wide receiver? Is he going to play defensive back? That depends on what the
scoring is. That depends on how the scoring would be in your league, I guess. Because if he plays wide receiver for a little bit, but he's mostly on corner, is he getting points for interceptions? If not, then no. He's probably not worth until you dude, you're going to be playing receiver. You're not going to be playing corner anymore, or whatever.
And that's where I think that you're going to have somebody who's played under prime time for the last 2 years. He's going to be super outspoken. He's going to have his own opinion on what he wants to do because that is what prime time does. And you can't complain about it, but it's one of those that I don't like it. I don't think if I'm a GM for any team in the NFL, I have a lot of hesitation behind wanting to draft anybody out of Colorado.
Okay, they do have the coach of the year on here.
Oh, who is it?
It was Kurt Signetti.
Fuck that guy.
I think I'm not mad about that one either. I'll be honest. I'm not.
Cool.
I'm not mad about it.
Play nobody for fucking 11 out of 12 games.
I understand.
Fuck you.
Another one that I'm more, kind of questioning, what's the point of this? So the Davey O'Brien goes to the top quarterback.
Right.
And then you have the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, which goes to the top upper class quarterback. They went to 2 different people. How the hell does that work?
Yep.
How does that work? That doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous.
Nope. I mean, I get it, man.
JT won the Maxwell, which is another college player of the year award because there's 6 of them.
Right.
And he won the Doak Walker, obviously, as the best running back. There was no, I don't think.
Yeah, there was no doubts on that.
Yeah, I will say the William V. Campbell Trophy, the academic Heisman, went to Jalen Milroe. I didn't know.
Yeah,
that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I'll be honest. Yeah, but the college football awards in general is clearly a popularity contest, and there's really not an argument to say that it's not at this point after this year.
It's also, you look at the top defensive back for college, how did
Barron? Yeah, how did
Hunter not win that?
Yeah. Oh, you want to give him every award you possibly could?
So you're going to say he won the Heisman for being the best player in college football, but yet he didn't win outstanding defensive back?
Yeah. There's also 3 Coach of the Year awards. There's the Home Depot one, which is the main one. And then there's the George Munger Award that goes to the top Division I coach. That one's judged by the Maxwell Club. And then there's another one, the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year. It's also the top Division I coach, just judged by different people. Yeah. Why? Why?
Like that, there has to be a change in how we do these awards. Like if not, like why? Like, and this is where I look at NFL. Like, change NFL MVP and create a separate award for the best quarterback of the year.
They do. They have that. But
Because
I mean, usually, and the most important position on a football field is quarterback.
but
Is it
there's
not?
yes, but there's times where it's not. Like,
I mean, yeah. There's I mean, if looking at Boise State, the most important player is obviously Ashton Jeanty. It's not Maddox. I think it's Maddox Madsen. It's not him.
right.
But like you look at the Chiefs, the Bills, the Lions. I'm talking about the top teams. Chiefs, Bills, Lions. All those guys start with their quarterback, and you could argue the Jared Goff. You could argue that one
Exactly.
But I'm saying,
Well, it's also we just saw one of 2 weeks ago we saw one of the best performances from a quarterback, and he lost.
Yeah, I mean Lamar threw 5 touchdowns today. Granted, he played the Giants.
Josh Allen literally threw for 3, ran for 3, and still lost.
And he also put up another 48 today against the Lions.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I think Josh Allen is MVP right now.
Quarterback the most important spot at times?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
Cool. Joe Burrow is going to throw for 5,000 yards, which isn't an easy feat, and he's going to finish probably 8-9, 9-8. He's going to throw for probably 40 touchdowns.
His team has really let him down.
He's going to throw for 40 touchdowns. He's
right, but if not, they're going to finish
at that point, I'm probably going to entertain the idea of Joe Burrow winning MVP just because of the season he's had, but yet his team has a chance not to make the playoffs.
So the explanation,
but yet he has been the most valuable player.
The explanation for the MVP is supposed to be the most valuable player to their team. And if that is the case, I think you definitely have an argument there, because if Joe Burrow isn't throwing 3-4 touchdowns a game, the Bengals are going 2-15.
If that.
I was being generous.
I'll give them 2 wins. Were. I'm just
I'll let them run. I mean, if the Giants have 3 wins, shit, give the Bengals 2 without Joe Burrow. But that's just not. It's unfortunately, it's not how it is.
So the Bengals have.
If it goes to Mahomes, I will absolutely go on record saying it's the most bogus MVP.
Right.
Of 100%
because he's had a dog shit year,
and I will say that.
But I think it's ridiculous. What did he throw for today?
I think and it changes throughout the season. Right now, I think it's Josh Allen. I think he's the most valuable player in football.
So Burrow today threw for 271, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's got 3 games left of the season, and he's sitting at 3,800 yards. Yeah. So he could have a weird game where he throws for 400 or 500 yards. You have a chance for him to literally throw for over 5,000 yards. It's just, you can't tell me that quarterback's the most important when this guy is playing out of his mind and it means nothing.
Well, I mean, okay, so who do you think do you think Burrow should win the MVP?
Let me see his direct stats real quick. So he's thrown for 3,700 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. That's
okay. Where's Allen
playing better? Who's playing better?
Allen.
Give me a second.
Allen's playing better right now.
Season leaders.
I mean, but you also have to take into account winning. I mean, I know Burrow's been really let down by his defense, but if your team's losing, you're not going to win an MVP.
So Burrow leads the league in yards.
Okay.
Allen is 12th.
Okay.
So his touchdowns.
I can tell you what the difference is there.
Allen's 1.
Allen's throwing 2.
No, Burrow's 1.
No disrespect.
Burrow's 1 in touchdowns thrown. Allen is 6th. Interceptions is.
How about you take Allen's rushing into account?
I knew it was coming, but that's the thing. You're not. That's why Lamar's won 3.
Is he won 3?
2 or
I know he's won
3,
two.
2,
Has he won three?
potentially.
I thought it was just
I
two.
don't exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying the Bills are nothing without Josh Allen. They are just the bottom of the NFL if they don't have Josh Allen.
So are the Bengals.
Yes, but here's the difference. The Bills are winning. The Bengals are not.
Josh Allen.
That's the difference.
Yeah, but you also
You're not
look
going
at
to get
that.
just because you throw 40 touchdowns. If your team goes 2-15, who gives a shit? Who cares?
Cool. You look at the Bills, who are like will spend money in comparison to a small market team like the Bengals, who won't.
The Bills don't really spend that much money. They don't usually spend that much money. But I'm just saying, the winning it has to be a factor. Whether you get screwed by your defense or not, whether you put up, if that's the case, then Drew Brees should have, what, 5 MVPs just because he threw for 5,000
I mean, it
yards?
still comes in. That is the problem I have with every award. Is it's all popularity.
I'm just saying the winning has to be somewhat important, whether it's your fault or not. Yeah, he's only turning the ball over 6 times through the air, but you're not winning. The
But
Bills are what, 12-2? Like I mean, I know they're top of their division. They're going to the playoffs. Like I think they locked it up already, but like you still have to win.
Bills are 11-3.
I was close, but you still have to win. You could put up 40 touchdowns and 5,000 yards, but if you don't win, there's a problem. When you have a guy that's just as good and his team's winning.
But you're now helping my case on the fact of why I think there should be a separate reward for.
Yeah, that's fine. You can give Allen. I mean, I guess it would be the same. It's like, why are you giving this? But yeah, I guess one is based off absolute team performance, which would be Josh Allen, in my opinion, and top quarterback, which I could see going to Joe Burrow. And you could make an argument for him, obviously. But again, at the end of the day, I think the MVP comes down to like the winning factor, which is very similar to what I brought up, with Travis Hunter winning the Heisman. Colorado lost 3 games.
Right.
They're not even in the college football playoff. They didn't make their conference championship game, and yet he was still determined to be the best player in college football. Which, there's not a person I've asked that thinks that Travis Hunter is the best player in college football this year.
Who was the last person in the NFL to win an MVP that wasn't a quarterback?
A long time ago.
How many years do you think?
15, 20.
You're looking at like 12, 13.
Really? Who was it?
Adrian Peterson
That tracks.
in 2012.
What did he do that year?
Before that, the last time you had a non-quarterback win it back-to-back years was 05-06. Sean Alexander in LT. But
Daniel Tomlinson, he was nuts too.
Exactly, but that's my problem is that you have an award that like 90% of the time goes to a quarterback. Like just create another award for best quarterback of the league, and then have that because there's been plenty of times. Like let's talk about some of those years J.J. Watt was playing.
I mean, he won Defensive Player of the Year several times.
But there was an absolute case for him to be an MVP.
Sure. I mean, you're
overlooked because you have a quarterback that's also considered in the same position. I'm sorry, like you take J.J. Watt off of some of those Texan teams, like would they have been as good as they were?
No. I mean, again, by the logic of how they explain the rule, yes, you are 100% right. But that's not how it works.
So let's go back all the way to 1990.
When was the last time a defensive player won MVP?
God. 1986,
Who was it?
Lawrence Taylor.
Really? LT, the original LT. Okay.
I may be
That's
missing
wild
somebody,
because
but
you
like,
would I would have guessed maybe it was Michael Strahan when he broke the sack record.
or Woodson.
Yeah, Woodson, who also won a Heisman. Also, just a quick sidebar: ESPN announced that Travis Hunter was the first full-time defensive player to win a Heisman since Charles Woodson, which is the biggest, like, not true shocker statement of ESPN. It's not true, ESPN, but you just want to push that. Whatever.
Like, it's just, man, it's insane on some of that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, again, you are right. By the rule that they claim the MVP is the most valuable player to their team, yes, you have a point. But you know that's not how it works.
No, it's
and you can't tell me Josh Allen isn't an MVP candidate here.
No, I don't disagree with it. I just also, like, it's one of those where you look at, like, last year with, like, TJ Watt. Like, would the Steelers have been as well as they were without TJ Watt?
No. But here's the thing. The big one is a lot of players use like their incentives to, for contract talks. Like, oh, if you win this, you can get this kind of bonus. Defensive players aren't adding, oh yeah, if I win MVP, I want $2 million.
Because
they're not going to win it.
They're not going to.
No,
but that's the thing. Like,
but they use defensive player of the year means something. Like, a big award. It's almost just as big as MVP. Like, people look at that just as almost as equal. At least I do. I look at it as very equal to MVP because MVP is clearly an offensive position. Like, is an offensive award.
Let's see. So, defensive player of the year for the last year. Let's look at the last 6 or 7. Garrett, Nick Bosa, TJ Watt, Aaron Donald, Gilmore, Donald, Khalil Mack. You can even go further back, like JJ Watt, Luke Kuechly, JJ Watt. Like, you're telling me that 2012, 2014, 2015 Texas teams are going to do near as good as they did if JJ Watt's not on it?
No. But again, that's what I'm saying. It's the MVP is an offensive award, and that's how it's,
No, it shouldn't. That is the problem I have with it. That's not an offensive award. You have an offensive player of the year.
Okay,
that is an offensive fucking award.
You can't compare a quarterback stats to a defensive player stats.
No, but like, that's also the problem is that this isn't a stat based fucking award.
Right. So then how
this
do you
is like how valuable is this person to said team?
I'm thinking Watt definitely has gotten some MVP votes in the past.
I'm sure he's gotten
either
votes
of them
for it, but
JJ or TJ, either of them have probably gotten MVP votes.
That is my thing on that is that, like, I think you over evaluate how important a quarterback is because that is who scores points.
Well, who was the last team to win a Super Bowl without a good quarterback? I'm actually asking here. I'm not trying to make a point here. I'm just really asking. The last one I could think of that was even in the Super Bowl was Rex Grossman for the Bears. Because you've had Mahomes, Brady.
Let's go off of the last
recent years.
So
like
you had
in
Kansas City, San Fran, Kansas City, Philadelphia, LA, Cincinnati, Tampa, Kansas City, San Francisco, New England.
You can maybe give that first San Francisco one was Jimmy G, but they didn't win.
Who was Cam the quarterback for that Carolina one?
Yep, but Cam won an MVP.
That's Wilson. Who was that Flacco's Baltimore win?
Yep, Super Bowl MVP.
That would have been Breeze. That would have been who was the Arizona? Was that Warner and
what, Arizona and Pittsburgh? Yeah, that was Warner. Like you can make the argument that Flacco is probably the least talented of those quarterbacks to win.
2007, that was Grossman, wasn't it?
Bears Colts.
Yep.
Yep, that was Grossman. But I'm just saying, you don't make the Super Bowl unless you don't have to be an elite quarterback, but a good quarterback. You don't win a Super Bowl without a good quarterback. And yes, the defensive side, the defensive ends, all that stuff, they're important. TJ Watt is an insane player. I would not be upset if that was my first round pick to start a team. I would not be mad about that.
I don't know. Like I said, you're going to get the semantics of it. And like I said, we can go on this all night. It's just, I'm just so tired of
the popularity contest.
It's a popularity because, and that's where I think at times it comes with the MVP, is that like defensive players aren't popular.
They're not as marketable.
Don't get me wrong. You have guys that are, but they're not as marketable. It's one of those that like, if you gave it to TJ Watt last year, let's say, it's not as flashy as giving it to a quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, I have no problem giving it to a defensive. If someone broke the sack record, I think they should be in the conversation.
That's the problem. I think that even if you broke the sack record right now, you wouldn't win it.
Well, I mean, it's already happened. Strahan didn't win it, and he broke the sack record. Have you been seeing that recently? I only remember this because it keeps showing up. That guy is like mad that Favre dove.
Yeah.
He was about to get destroyed by Strahan, and he slid. Like yeah. I think any quarterback would have done the same. Oh yeah, I'm just I'll just lay down real quick. Everyone would have done the same thing. He was gonna get it. He was gonna get it right there.
Exactly. I don't know. Like I said, as we get into awards, I think it's such a finicky conversation.
Yeah. Like you said, we could go on and on about it. But
it's just something has to be done about it. Definitely in college. Like, I'm sorry.
The college one has to be fixed before the MVP one does in the NFL. I'll say that right now.
Travis Hunter shouldn't have won.
Travis Hunter is a great football player, and I want him to succeed in the NFL. But I'm going to Kanye West this. Ashton Jeter should have won the Heisman Trophy last night.
100%. Like, you can't. We had this conversation last night where as soon as we heard Hunter got it, all four of us literally went, "What a fucking snub!"
Yeah.
Like, what a just spit in his fucking face.
Yeah, I'm glad it was close, but I think it should have been close the other way.
It should have been one of those where like JT should have won it, and it should have been close for Hunter.
Yeah,
like there shouldn't have been any of this where like Hunter and the only reason Hunter won this is because he plays both sides of the ball. He's a marketable image.
He's a flashy player.
He's a flashy player. And he plays for prime time. You're telling me that if JT didn't do the exact same thing he did in Boise State with Colorado, he wouldn't have won it?
I agree.
And it's just like I said, it's dumb, stupid. It's one of those that like you hate it for the guy that got snubbed in that situation.
Yeah, definitely sucks. And I just hope this doesn't. If we see another season like that, man, it's just going to be another.
Right. Like, if he can't win it having the season he had, who can?
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's 220 yards off of Sanders' record.
Is he only 220? Which is crazy since he sat out so much of these games because they were just blowouts.
Like I was like blowouts. We were talking about this last night. He sat out enough of.
He sat out 2 games worth of quarters.
Right, because they were just up.
Yeah.
So and that's where you get into this weird spot. Like, you never want to play for awards, but in that situation, had he played those 2 games, and he's sitting at 3,300 yards, could you?
I don't know if he's quite there, but he's probably pretty close to 3,000 if he plays.
100%. And that's the thing. I laughed about it earlier this year, where I was like, he's gonna sit out games because Boise State's gonna win by such an amount that they don't want their star player to get hurt. and that's what's going to screw him out of getting the record within like the regular season.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
because
agree.
if you add what he out of those 2 quarters worth of or those 2 games worth of quarters that he missed, you're adding an extra like 450 yards.
Yeah, which would have put him at over 2,900.
Yeah. Well, I think Sanders is only like 2,600.
Is it 26 or I thought it was like 28?
It's like 2,683, I think.
I could be wrong. I know we looked it up a few weeks ago.
2628.
So he's pretty close already. Because he's at what, 25 something?
Yeah, I think he's at like 24 and change. Give me a second. I'll look real quick. And that's kind of where we're at.
I thought I said last time he was at 2,500.
I'm pulling it right now just to be safe and see. I know he's not far off. JT's got 2497.
So he's what, 100 and little under 200 yards?
Like 2628. So he is 131 yards off.
He can do that against Penn State.
Oh, 100%.
And he still won't be winning.
Even if all he hits is what the 150, you think he breaks that. That's a record that's sat for the last 35 years, give or take a little bit.
29 touchdowns, 2,400 yards, 25. We're going to give him 3 yards, 2,500 yards. Nuts. That's insane. It's 7.3 a carry, and that's 344 carries, and it's still that high.
So that record's been since 1988.
And I think he breaks it.
100% he does. I can't imagine that he doesn't run for at least 150 against Penn State.
I guess we'll see. It's on New Year's Eve, so hopefully, depending on if he plays SMU, he's going over 200, and they'll probably win that game.
Oh, 100%. I still think they win against Penn State. I think it's close. I think it's probably a touchdown or a field goal game, but I still think it's 200 yards and at least 2 touchdowns.
We shall see. Let's end it there. This has been a longer episode, but we were away for quite a bit, so we went a little longer today. But appreciate you guys listening, Taylor. Always, like I was about to say that, always fun talking sports with Taylor. Really appreciate you guys listening in. We're going to try and get these out a little bit more frequently. We're going to try and do them as we can. Obviously, this isn't our full-time job, but we're going to try and get these out. We're going to try to do multiple a week if we can, but we will see you guys for the next episode, and thank you guys for listening.